Can meditation help you create a better life and provide a deep sense of spiritual connection? What is the biggest meditation myth that may be holding you back from experiencing the profound benefits meditation can offer? Would you like to discover a simple, easy-to-apply meditation method that creates a sense of physical relaxation, toxic emotions release, and spiritual growth? If you answered yes to one or more of these questions, you are in the right place. Stephen Carter here, your host for the Energy Healing for Wellbeing podcast. I am also the founder for Stress Solutions, LLC, a company I led for 14 years. That company helped thousands of people create successful lives and emotional well-being using holistic energy psychology, energy medicine, hypnosis, NLP, and meditation methods. My focus now is on sharing proven tools and methods with tens of thousands of people through a variety of podcasts to include this show, Energy Healing for Wellbeing. You'll find those podcasts and other resources at stressreliefradio.com. This show is for you if you're a holistic practitioner or you're open to discover holistic methods for enhanced emotional, physical, and spiritual well-being. Given that my conversation with our guest, Chris Curran, is relevant for listeners of two other podcasts, you may be listening in a show other than Energy Healing for Wellbeing. In this episode, you're going to meet Chris Curran. Chris is a meditation expert and trainer. At 31, Chris was homeless with no car and no apparent path back to a normal life. After he hit rock bottom, he discovered meditation. Day by day, he used the insights and the self-confidence that came to him through meditation to lift himself out of poverty and create a successful recording studio and podcast editing business. And, by the way, also a deeply spiritual and happy life. You'll hear Chris talk about his 10 trips to India to live and study in ashrams, where he deepened his meditation practice, his emotional well-being, and his spiritual awareness. As Chris grew spiritually, he taught meditation, created an excellent book on success, and he continues sharing wisdom and insights about meditation through his meetup group and his websites. Chris's websites, meetup group, and contact information are linked up in this episode's show notes. Key insights Chris shares during our conversation include the many physical, emotional, and spiritual benefits meditation offers, how meditation helps you regulate, not control, but regulate your mind, the truth about the biggest meditation myth, the truth about so-called bad meditation experiences, and finally, how to apply the simple, easily done lightness meditation practice and the benefits that method offers. We cover a lot of information during our conversation, but there is no need to take notes. I've created a user-friendly key point summary identifying the most important information, including a step-by-step guide on how to engage in the simple, easily done lightness meditation technique Chris describes. This summary and guide also has all of the website links we'll talk about in the episode. To get your free copy, create an email with the subject line reading Meditation Guide, leave the body of the email blank, and send that email to me at cartermethod@gmail.com, cartermethod@gmail.com. I'll get that guide to you by return email. By the way, your email address is not going to end up on any newsletter list or any other list. Once I send you the guide, I delete your request. If you have not already subscribed or you're not following the Energy Healing for Wellness podcast, I encourage you to do that. Do that now so that you will never miss an episode. With no further delay, let's join my conversation with Chris Curran. We have with us from beautiful Colorado Springs, Colorado, Mr. Chris Curran. Chris is a longtime meditator. He's the author of The Leap Beyond Your Limits. He's the founder of Fractal Recording Studios. He produces podcasts for major corporations and others through that studio. Prior to establishing Fractal Recording, Chris worked as an audio engineer for major New York area studios. He recorded some of the major top music talent in the world. He himself is a music artist. He's the host of The Mystic Show, the Podcast Engineering Show, both podcasts. He's also the founder of the Podcast Engineering School. And I promise all of these accomplishments will come into play as we talk with Chris about meditation and how what he's learned along his journey can help you use meditation for a better, healthier, happier, and more successful life. Welcome, Chris, to the show.
Hi, Steve. Very happy to be with you.
Chris, there's three aspects of your world I would like to talk about. First, how you discovered meditation. How has your meditation practice changed over time? Secondly, what role your meditation practices play in your day-to-day work as an audio engineer and your own music creation. And third, if you can share the meditation method you've developed and tell us how listeners can actually join you in an online meditation session twice a week. And I do want to say I've personally done that, and it is an amazing experience. So we'll get into that shortly. But I'd like to begin with how you discovered meditation. When did that happen, and what drew you to a meditation practice or the meditation practice you ultimately chose?
Yeah, so it was when I was 31 years old, which was in 2003. Up until age 31, I lived my life not in a good way. I mean, I wasn't like a serial killer or anything like that. I just was very selfish, very self-centered. I had an attitude, and I mean, probably like most Americans do. By age 31, my life had crumbled to nothing. I had no job. I had no place to live. I had no car in New Jersey. I just drove my life into the ground, and I ended up thinking to myself, I have to do something. Like, I knew I was smart, at least average smarts, maybe above average, I don't know. I knew that something was wrong. Like, I should be having more success in life than I am. Why am I screwing it all up? What's the problem here? When I was at my lowest point, that's when I was drawn to meditation. I just somehow, I guess throughout my life, I always, even from when I was in high school as a teenager, I knew that meditation was something I wanted to do at some point in my life. Like I knew, I don't know how I knew, but I knew there was just something with meditation that was really, really important. When I was 31 and my life crumbled, I started a meditation practice. So that's how I got started. And pretty much immediately it changed my life because it changed my focus. It just changed so many things. So that's how I got into it originally.
Was that the point where you realized meditation was going to be a lifetime practice, or had you gotten to that conclusion at that point?
I actually don't know, because at the time I needed to be saved. I needed to save myself, and I saw meditation as a practice that could help me do that then. I don't know if I thought about it like, oh, I'm going to have to do this every day for the rest of my life or something. I don't think I've ever had that thought, actually. I just do it, I guess.
Well, you do it, and you've done it for a whole lot of years. Not to give away your age, but how long roughly have you been in a meditative practice?
Yeah, well, now I'm 49, so it was 18, 19 years ago that I started. And when I started with an official practice. It was a specific worldwide organization that offered a method of training for free. And I got into that training and I enjoyed it. I resonated with it, and I was there for many years. And I even started teaching within that method and that organization. It's helpful to teach anything because you learn so much more about the subject, the topic yourself, right? So teaching was great. But for the last 6-7 years that I've been living here in Colorado Springs, we don't have a local group here of people in our meditation practice. So my wife and I meditate on our own, but we don't have a local group. That actually changed the dynamic very much. And my practice has definitely not been as regular or regimented as it was. It's not as regimented as it was, but that fact doesn't bother me at all. That's just a fact.
Going back in time, you made a decision that, to use your words, I think you needed to be saved, and meditation seemed to be a worthy path to that end. And you studied, if I recall an earlier conversation, you studied in the United States with a trainer for a while, and then you found yourself going to India.
I did. I visited India to visit some ashrams and, of course, to visit the master and spend time meditating with the master and in the ashrams. I think I made 9 or 10 trips to India over a 10-year period. I also visited Europe several times for that purpose. The meditation practice and the organization were a big part of my life for sure.
That's a lot of trips. I'm assuming you lived in the ashram. Would that be correct?
Yes.
Were you able to understand? Did they speak English? What was that like for you when you were living in the ashram and experiencing the trainings with the master of that group?
It was enlightening, to say the least. I mean, you have a relatively uneducated, uncultured, loud American going to a foreign country and learning how other people live. Like, that was the most valuable thing for me. Because especially people in the United States, somehow think that everyone around the world lives exactly the same way we do. And they have all the same things and they have everything we have. And it's like, you don't understand the world at all if you think that everybody lives like Americans. So they don't. And it's eye-opening to go to a different culture. So as far as the language, believe it or not, most Indians anywhere in India, most Indians speak English because they take English in school. They all get trained in speaking English in addition to their local Indian language. Tamil is the language from Chennai, where I visited many times. That's in southern India. And there's many different languages throughout India. So the language was not a problem at all. Literally, almost everyone spoke English. So that wasn't a problem. And then as far as the life inside the ashram, think about like going on vacation. Like when you go on vacation, you don't, if you do it right, you're not worried about checking your email or doing any work or even following politics or social things. Like you don't even think about that, right? When you're on vacation, you're supposed to be getting away from the world, right? Taking a vacation from the world. And so when you do that, because I did it right, I said, I'm just going to be off the grid, right? That was my attitude toward it. So having that attitude in the ashram was great because I got to really spend a lot of time there and meditate a lot, 2-3 times a day, twice a day at least, minimum, feeling the vibe and maybe reading some books about spirituality. And you could think of it kind of like a retreat, even though I wouldn't technically call it a retreat, but it was a retreat of sorts. And it allowed me the time to actually think, sort of go inside my own heart and feel things and also practice meditation either with the master or in the vicinity of the master, that itself is an unbelievable experience. So it's just all these things combined to make these trips to India just like life-changing. It's hard to explain how life-changing these trips were, but it really was.
You meditated 2-3 times a day. How long were the meditation sessions when you were there in the ashrams?
Each session, I would say anywhere from 50 minutes to 60 minutes. About an hour. You could think about an hour is about the average, but sometimes it's a little less.
Were there satsangs also, group meetings and so forth as part of that, along with the meditation? What would be your social interaction in the ashram or learning experiences beyond the actual meditation?
Yeah, so we did have 2 satsangs per day, 2 group meditations per day, and that's in addition to your own personal meditation early in the morning. Meditating with other people is wonderful. And then speaking with other people in the ashram is also wonderful because there's people from all around the world, from different cultures. And they, maybe someone will give a talk after the satsang, and then we kind of talk about the talk, right? So it's just continued learning and absorbing different people's thoughts and culture and points of view, all under the umbrella of an ashram where you can just relax. And, the food is provided for the most part. You don't have to worry about much of anything in terms of daily chores. So that really is wonderful.
Thinking back over the many trips that you took and the many days that you studied in the ashram and spent time in India, was there 1, 2, 3 things that you consider to be the most important things or insights that you discovered or realized during your trips there?
Well, there were many. It's hard to pinpoint specific experiences. I think in general, one of the overall things I loved about the practice was that it sort of stresses this idea that religion is one thing, but spirituality is another thing, right? In fact, one of the famous quotes by one of the masters is, "Spirituality begins where religion ends." And then you have Swami Vivekananda, who said, "It's good to be born into a religion, but it's bad to die in a religion." This is obviously Eastern type thought here, right? This is not the church's wisdom here. This is ancient wisdom from spiritual masters and spiritual seekers who make that distinction between religion and spirituality, because religion divides people by its definition. Spirituality unites people. There are many other differences that, we could talk about it as much as you want. But so for me, even just that attitude of understanding that difference and seeing that, yes, religion has a place. It serves a purpose. It helps millions and billions of people. It's not bad. It is what it is. But yet beyond it, there's even more. And so that sort of attitude, or that sort of searching or seeking something even higher, or seeking something more pure or something less worldly, it becomes like a quest, right? So that's the thing I really enjoyed. And then there's so much other wisdom that came along with it, like listening to the master's talks and his teachings and everything, like constant education and understanding of what different words mean and what different things are, and in terms of a spiritual practice, but also in terms of worldly life as well. It was just constant learning on a deep level. And so therefore it takes time to digest big things like that, right? Like it's to sort of digest that information into your own being and then use it to live your life in a better way. Like it just takes years to unfold. It's an invaluable journey.
If you were advising someone who was not able to make the trips to India to spend time in an ashram, but are looking for a pathway to spiritual depth, how would you suggest they do that? What would be their first, second, third steps if you could offer your thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure. So in general, it's hard to give advice, right? I can give my opinion, but it's hard to give advice because everyone's situation is very different. So to anyone listening who wants any direction or advice or anything, first of all, just go with your gut. Go with your own heart. If your heart says, "Ooh, I want to try that meditation practice," then go try it. Don't think twice. And that goes with anything. Or if you say, "I don't want to meditate right now," okay, there's something to that as well. But if I did have to give any advice, I would just advise people to learn how to do simple meditation. Meditating, to me, is one of the most fundamental activities of life that gives the most reward when you do it. Like the time you spend meditating, you benefit from that so much. We can't even comprehend it with our conscious minds, right? We benefit so much in terms of digesting our experience, in terms of letting older experiences drift away from us and evaporate. There's so much that happens during meditation. Learning how to regulate your mind, not control your mind, but regulate your mind. How invaluable is regulating your mind? That you could argue that's the main problem with the world today, is everyone is just thinking, talking. And it's just stream of consciousness and it's emotion coming out. No one's able to regulate themselves and sort of act a little more maturely or something like that. or not say things that are inflammatory, things like that. I mean, simple things, people can't control themselves. They just spew everything. Why? Because their mind is not regulated enough. Here's what it comes down to. They are not controlling their mind, their own mind. Their mind is controlling them. And the practice of meditation is how you gain not control over your mind, but you become the master of your mind instead of your mind being the master of you. And when you learn how to be a master of your own mind, then the mind becomes what it is, which is just a tool for us to use as human beings to solve problems and to get along in the physical world. We need a brain, we need thoughts, right? That's the role of the mind, is just to provide that the ability to move throughout the world and eat and whatever, everything we need to do. But when people allow their mind to sort of become unregulated and just filled with all stuff, they're never taking out their head trash, right? Everyone is absorbing head trash, but no one is expelling their head trash. So meditation is a process where, without you even knowing it, you're not expelling the head trash. You're almost letting it just dissolve away on its own. Like it just dissolves away if you let it. Anyway, so that long answer, meditation, simple meditation, is one of the greatest things that any human being can do to get the most positive benefit in their life.
Well said. Clearly spot on. For those who have tried meditation or maybe are engaged in meditative practices now, and good Lord knows there's tons and tons, multiple ways of meditating. The two most prominent are mantra meditation, of course, repeating of a sound or a sacred sound, and mindfulness. Both of these, for some people, can be challenging. They think that the requirement is they quiet the mind, that the mind becomes the perfect still waters. And that is not obviously always the case. What was your experience as far as the mind being that kind of calm, crystal clear, smooth lake? Is that your experience? Or do sometimes we have situations where thoughts continually intrude, thoughts come up, and when thoughts come up, how do you handle that?
Great question. I like to think of it in a very, very simple way. And I like to think of it in terms of it's a practice. So if you'd never played guitar in your life and I handed you a guitar and I said, play me Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin, you would just say, I don't know what to do. I don't even know where to put my fingers. I don't know anything. Well, the similar experience happens when the first time you meditate. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what's going to happen. And here's the problem. If you come into it with unreal expectations, you're going to be disappointed. I don't know how this happened throughout the Western culture. Everyone who does not meditate, they think that meditation is to be thoughtless. They equate those two things. They're literally not the same thing at all. They have nothing to do with each other. Because meditation is not a practice where you should just sit down and immediately be thoughtless. That's not how it works. Again, if I hand you the guitar, you're not just going to play a beautiful guitar piece when you have never played a guitar in your life. So practice is the key. So that's first thing to understand. The second thing to understand is about thoughts. Like you said, thoughts will come and you have to learn how to ignore your thoughts. To me, if I had to define meditation, one way I could define it is to say meditation is the practice of learning how to ignore thoughts. That's it. So yes, when I started meditation, I had many thoughts. When I meditate these days, I sometimes have many thoughts. Guess what? I don't care. It doesn't mean anything. People think if they have a lot of thoughts during meditation that, oh my God, I'm such a terrible person. I'm so bad at meditating. I'm not able to do this. This is too hard. That's all rubbish. That's all head trash, actually. It's just literal rubbish. It has nothing to do with what meditation really is. It's the fact that these people, these beginners who complain like that, they have an expectation that's not realistic. So teaching people the realistics about meditation is that, yes, you're going to sit down and meditate. You're going to have a lot of thoughts. But the key is you got to learn how to just, as your thoughts sort of float by within your consciousness, You have to learn how to just let them float by. And who cares? I don't care. And you're not trying to think. You're not trying to push the thoughts away either. That's a mistake too. You should not push your thoughts away. You should not do anything when you're meditating. Meditating is a passive activity. You're not supposed to do anything. You're supposed to do nothing. So part of doing nothing is when you have thoughts, ignore it. That's difficult though. It is not easy for the beginner. But if you just understood everything I said, now you can go meditate. And when you have a bunch of thoughts, now you're going to have the proper attitude, which is, okay, fine. So what? I have thoughts. Who cares? And then you come back to, let's say it's a gentle focus on the divine light in your heart. Maybe that's the thought you start with in your meditation. Just a gentle idea that there's divine light in your heart, and then you let go. And then when thoughts come in, you don't attend to them. You don't give them energy, and they end up floating away. And then more thoughts come in their place, right? And then you don't attend to them, and then they drift away. And then new thoughts come. Guess what happens over time, though? There are fewer and fewer thoughts that come into your mind. When you let the thoughts go, you're releasing them. I think this is important. I hope this is not too much of a tangent. But when you live your everyday life, when you see things and hear things and talk and feel emotions, and when you live life, you're basically taking in a lot of impressions, a lot of thoughts and impressions of the world. You're taking them in. That's why you can remember where you went yesterday. It's in your mind, right? Living regular life, we accumulate so much, and most of it's garbage, honestly. It's bad ideas, bad thinking, repetitive stuff. It's not helpful. When you finally sit down and relax and let go, all these thoughts that went in, which are sometimes called samskaras, they're these impressions. When these impressions and samskaras come into you, they want to come out because nature wants you to be completely clean. Nature doesn't want you to be corrupted with rubbish. So when you let go and just relax, nature starts cleaning you. It starts taking these thoughts out of you. But here's the thing. When the thoughts are coming out, they come back through your mind. They will cross your mind. Like you'll think about the basketball hoop at my mom's house 38 years ago that I used to play with. Some thought like that will come through your mind and you'll be like, where the heck did that come from? But again, you just let it go. So my point is, the more you meditate, the more you learn how to ignore thoughts, the more you will exhaust yourself of all these impressions. The impressions are the roots of like habits. So if you want to change your habits, you just clean all this stuff out and there's no habits anymore. That's why when I started meditating, it's a long answer, but I'm sort of hitting the answers as I'm going. So anyway, I hope. When I started meditating, I was drinking alcohol back then. When I first discovered the local person who was going to teach me the Sahaj Marg method, I went there. I took the 3 initial sittings over 3 meditations over 3 days. And then I went home. And the first day I tried to do it's a cleaning exercise. It's similar to meditation, but it's a little different. But I had drank some beers beforehand, probably 2 or 3, I don't know, maybe 2 beers, let's say, I don't know. And then I sat down to try to do my cleaning, which is a type of meditation, and it wouldn't work. Like something was wrong. I was like, wait a minute, something is wrong. I didn't know what was wrong. I'm like, just something is wrong. I'm not able to do this. 2 days later, I went to my teacher and I said, hey, how does alcohol fit into meditation? And he said, well, it doesn't. It actually dumbs you down and holds you down and doesn't let you sort of open up and release and stuff like that. And he said more than that, but I'll leave it at that. I immediately knew that. So anyway, he told me that. Fast forward 7 or 8 weeks, and I'm not joking, and I'm not exaggerating. 7 or 8 weeks later, after I was meditating every day, I was going to see my local teacher once a week and all this. 7 weeks later, I actually realized that I hadn't drank any beers or any alcohol since that one time before when I had trouble meditating. I didn't try to quit drinking. It just happened. Even up till today, I haven't drank any alcohol since that day when I drank alcohol and tried to meditate and I was like, something's wrong. This doesn't make any sense. I never tried to quit alcohol ever. And I tell people I don't drink. They're like, oh, you quit. Good job. I'm like, no, I didn't do anything. This meditation practice removed whatever was inside me that was compelling me to drink. It just removed it. And now I have no desire to drink. It's just gone. It's not there. I don't know where it went, but it's gone. that's one of the things that happened to me. I thought I would tell that story because, anyway, I hope that was a decent story.
Absolutely. On your website, Pause Your Life, you share a number of useful tips to make meditation easier. Can you share one or two key tips that come to mind you believe that can help make meditation easier, regardless of what type of meditation you may be engaged in?
Sure. I think some of what I already said definitely applies. Like learning how to ignore your thoughts is the most critical thing you can do. The meditation practice that I talk about on our website is very simple. You sit down, you sit comfortably, and you don't lay down. This is another thing. People ask, can I meditate laying down? The answer is no, because you're going to fall asleep. Now, if you want to meditate and then fall asleep and that's fine. Then do that. But if you're trying to just meditate for 30 minutes or an hour and you think that laying down is and then you're just going to meditate and then you're going to get up, it doesn't work. So don't do that. Even resting your head on anything. If you sort of rest your head on anything and relax, then you'll probably fall asleep. So don't do that. Just sit upright, sit comfortable, and close your eyes. And you begin with the idea that there's some sort of divine light or divine essence that's in your heart. You don't try to picture the light. You just begin with the idea that there's this divine presence in your heart. And then you just let go. And then when thoughts come, you just ignore the thoughts. That's it. And if you have too many thoughts, if you keep just getting pounded by thoughts, right? Sometimes that happens, right? Some meditation sessions, you are absolutely just going to get overrun with thoughts the entire time. And guess what? That is not a bad thing. You should never think of that type of a meditation like, oh, that was such a bad meditation. Oh, that was terrible. No, every meditation is a good meditation. Every single one, regardless of your experience doing it. It's all good. So that's it. So if you get overrun with thoughts, you sort of come back to the idea, gently come back to the idea that there's divine light in your heart, and then you just sort of let go again. That's it. So keeping a simple practice is key. Ignoring thoughts is key. That's it. Then you just got to do it every day. If you're a morning person, do it in the morning. And the morning, by the way, is the best time to meditate. Technically before dawn. That's what these amazing gurus have taught us, right? That meditating before dawn is like the ultimate sort of time to meditate, but you do what you can, right? So if you're a morning person, do it in the morning. If you're an evening person, do it in the evening. And that's it. In general, to sum all that up, keep it simple. Just keep it simple. Let go. That's it.
Very, very sage guidance. I'd like to shift gears here for a minute, Chris, to go to the book that you authored, Leap Beyond Your Limits. Was that informed by your experiences, meditation, and your time in India, or was this something that sort of took on a life of its own and really not so much related to your meditation experiences?
It is definitely related to my meditation and spiritual journey, but not completely. Before I started meditating, like when I was in my 20s and even early 20s, I discovered Tony Robbins and I discovered self-help authors and cassette tapes, Tony Robbins cassette tapes and stuff. Like I love all that stuff, like self-help, self-empowerment. I literally love all that stuff because it's so simple and clear that it works. Like I don't care who you are, just look in society. If you want to do what some of these previous authors have done, where they go around and actually do case studies on hundreds of people, and then they distill down what did these hundreds of people do to become that successful, and they distill it down into a book. That's what Think and Grow Rich is, basically, right? That famous book. So I love self-help, but even when I loved self-help in my 20s, I didn't do anything. I mean, I did some things. I tried to set goals and stuff, but I didn't have much success with it. So then after my life crashed and I started meditation, then a few years after that, probably 5-6 years after that, I decided to write the book. I was doing seminars at the time. I was trying to do self-help seminars, goal setting workshops, stuff like that, just to help people. So I wrote my book to sort of help me do that, run seminars and stuff. And it was really good. I really enjoyed writing the book. People have really enjoyed it, reading it. For me in my life, it was a big step for me too, because writing a book is no joke, it takes quite a bit of effort. The book went really well. And then I didn't stay teaching my self-help courses Because after 3 or 4 years of trying to teach self-help courses, I was overrun with the reality that most people don't want help. Most people don't want to change. Most people don't believe self-help stuff. Or I don't know what the reason is. Let's say you approach someone in life who's miserable and you approach them and you say, hey, I have a program that might help. You know what they'll say? No, I'm fine. I don't know why people say they're fine when their life is a mess and they're unhappy and they're emotionally unstable. And the reason is because they're afraid to go, for whatever reason, they're afraid to go in the self-help direction, because then that means taking responsibility for yourself. And that's a whole nother conversation. But anyway, that's why I got out of the self-help world, because it was almost depressing how few people actually want help in that area. To me, it was actually quite depressing.
In addition to those who, if they're drowning and you throw them a life raft or a life-saving device.
Preserver, yeah.
Yeah, no thanks. But there's another group that says, I'm only one more seminar away from enlightenment. They just keep going back, and they keep going to trainings. They keep buying books. They read it. They feel good. Well, look what I'm doing for myself. And the only thing that is missing is actually taking action and applying what they're learning. That seems to be missing for a lot of folks. We want just one more book, one more thing. There's something out there that once I learn it, I'm going to be who I want to be. I'm going to achieve what I want to achieve. And they simply don't look inside of themselves for the answers that truly are there. And people like Tony Robbins and people like you, when you were doing your work, can help people focus within and find the answers themselves and take action. But the thing is, there are some people that I know you did reach, that you did make a difference for, because the law of numbers suggests that's the case. When you do a number or enough of those kinds of trainings and you work with enough people, there is a percentage of people who you have helped change their life. I'm sure that there have been people who have told you that.
Yeah, and I agree with you. So it was my case in my 20s. I liked self-help. I liked Tony Robbins, but I didn't take any action towards anything. And it wasn't until I hit rock bottom that I actually changed. So my conclusion, and other people have said this, I mean, there's a famous quote, I think it might be Patton, but I might be wrong. He said, success isn't how high you climb, it's how high you bounce. Here's my theory. I have obviously just a weird theory. I think people aren't going to take real action until they sort of get to rock bottom or near rock bottom. I mean, we're proving that in the world right now in terms of social things too. Things can happen in the world that are bad and people will put up with it for a certain amount of time. But if you push people too far, they will act and they will do things that you never thought they were capable of. So that happens in our own individual lives as well. So that's what I thought. I said, it's just timing for people, right? So self-help is a timing thing. When you need it, then you should use it and do it. Or else if you're not interested in it, then don't bother, because it's not going to help, right?
Let's take another short side trip here for a moment. I know that there are a number of podcasters who listen to my shows, and you just happen to be one of the foremost podcasters as far as audio quality and teaching people how to do audio the right way. So for those who are podcasters, you've got the podcast engineering school, you've got the podcasts that you're doing. Tell us a little bit about both of those for those who are interested in up-leveling their podcasting skills or audio skills.
Yeah, so I started podcast engineering school in 2016 to teach podcasters and aspiring podcasters to be able to produce audio properly and professionally. That's one of the things about the podcast industry. It's been getting better every year, but if you go back 5, 6, 7, 8 years, a lot of the audio quality in the podcasting space was terrible. It was hard to listen to a lot of people's podcasts because it was so bad audio quality. So I started a school because I actually have a background in the 90s of producing records and working with bands and learning, I became an audio engineer and all that. In terms of audio production, I'm sort of overqualified for podcast production, but I love it and I love teaching people. And it's important. So that's the other thing about audio quality is some people don't think it's important. It is very important. It's more important than you could pretty much ever believe. And so if anyone is doing a podcast or going to record audio or do something with audio, or even if you're going to record videos and you're going to obviously have audio with the video, you got to do the audio properly. You have to. Who was it? George Lucas said his famous quote, "Sound is half the picture." Literally, it is. So sound is that important. So I hope I'm sort of helping people in the world. And I know I am because more than 100 people have come through my school and they love it. Everyone loves it. I actually feel good helping people with audio because for me, it's fairly easy because I have so much experience and I can help a lot of people. So I'm enjoying it.
Well, I appreciate that. And having listened to your podcast, not only the podcast engineering, what's the actual name of the podcast?
Podcast Engineering Show.
Right. Podcast Engineering Show. And your other show. And
The Mystic Show.
That's right. The Mystic Show. You've got almost 200 episodes in that, 195, I believe. They are all gold. For those who are interested in spirituality, I would recommend finding those episodes. They are really, really well done, and of course with pristine audio quality, and we would expect absolutely nothing less. So I will have both of those shows linked up in the show notes. Tell us a little bit, if you would, about the Pause Your Life work that you're doing.
Yeah, so me and my wife, who I met in the meditation practice, by the way, in 2003 or 4. Obviously, we both like to meditate and everything. And so in 2014 or 2013, we started this organization called Pause Your Life. Here's the thing. Normal, everyday people just living their life, most people, they don't just have the random thought that, oh, I want to go learn meditation. Most people don't think that way. So when we started a meetup group based on meditation, we didn't just want to call it meditation. So I came up with this idea of pausing your life. So if we have a 2-hour meetup on a Saturday morning once a month, for those 2 hours, all the participants in that room, and I say this every meeting, I say, look, your life outside this room is paused. Everything is paused. Don't think about it. We're like in a bubble here. We're like in limbo or something. We're just here for this meeting. This meeting is separate from everything else. So disconnect yourself from your day-to-day life. And then we can actually just relax in this room and we can actually meditate and then we can have a nice discussion about spiritual type topics. So that's what we did. So in 2013, we started and people love it. I don't know why. I know why, but people who come to our meetup, they really love it. They come every month. We become like a small family because it's so good. So really, Pause Your Life in general was to help normal people who maybe aren't looking to meditate, but they're just looking to relax and pause and maybe do a little meditation. It has played out so well. I can't tell you how these monthly meetings are so refreshing, so relaxing, so bonding between people. It's just been outstanding. And, like everything else in my life, I wish we could do more of it and wish we could grow the organization or whatever. But I don't know how to grow things. Marketing is really hard for me. My brain doesn't think that way, I either think about technical stuff like audio quality and production, or I think about meditation and deep stuff. The whole marketing thing, that's not my cup of tea, but that's Pause Your Life. We love it. And people who've been coming actually love it too.
You have a meetup group headquartered in Colorado Springs. Do you think you're close to getting back to doing live meetings there in Colorado Springs for listeners who are within driving distance?
Yes, we definitely are. I think, right now we're talking, it's actually Valentine's Day, February 14th. So happy Valentine's Day, Steve.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Same to you.
But yeah, so now that more restrictions are being lifted and all of them will be lifted pretty soon, I think. But yeah, so we definitely are going to go back to in-person meetings. Sometimes we even go on hikes. We'll just go on a short, hike and just kind of chat and hang out. We don't really meditate or do anything, but just kind of like getting out. Taking a walk in nature is also a type of a pause. Pause your life. Yeah, we're getting back into the meeting soon.
For people who would like to learn more about your organization, what's the best way to do that?
For Pause Your Life?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go to the website. So it's pauseyourlife.org. And pause obviously is PAUSE, as in press the pause button. So yeah, pauseyourlife.org. And there are links. So we do 2 live meditation live streams every week, Thursday night and Sunday morning. So if you want to just join us remotely, you can meditate with us. It's great. And we love it.
I have participated in several of those. It really is a very soothing, calming experience. So I would commend anyone who would like to just spend 30 minutes on a Thursday evening or an hour or some percentage of that meditating with you and your wife. It's quite an experience. And on your website, on your YouTube, which you can get to through your website if my memory serves, you've got recordings of all the previous live events. So people, if it's not a time like a Thursday evening or a Sunday morning, they can just go ahead and choose one of the previous recorded experiences, and they'll be right in the middle of it. So I would really commend anyone who would like to spend a few minutes pausing their lives. That's an absolutely great way to do that. Chris, as we begin to wrap up, is there anything we've missed that you'd like to share with listeners before we ring off?
I'm happy with what we talked about. There's so much there. I mean, so if you're listening to this and your mind is blown because I spoke so fast with so much information, go back and listen to this again. And don't forget, you can always turn down the speed of the playback. If someone is talking too fast, you can reduce the speed of the playback to slow it down a little. But in general, I always have believed that there is so much potential in the individual human being that it's just shocking to me that we don't talk about that more. How much potential is inside each individual human being? Because we have no idea. No one has any idea of the immense beauty and possibilities of being alive as a human being. I, in my own way, try to tap into as much as I can in my own life. I always want to tap into more, but I really like talking about this stuff because each of us can tap in and get so much power and energy and love and beauty from within our own selves. You know, the masters say that the universe inside is way bigger than the universe outside. And as a culture, most cultures have forgotten this divine connection through our hearts. And just talking about it and spreading this knowledge and meditating with each other, I think we can really do great things. You know, you don't have to go out in the street with a sign and picket and yell at people and curse at your enemy, your political enemy. If you just meditate regularly, that will change the world more than anything you can do with a picket sign on the street, being angry and yelling at people. So I hope everyone can meditate more. I hope everyone can come meditate with us or meditate wherever. You don't have to see my face ever again if you don't want to. But the point is, tap into what's in your heart and you will be amazed. And I wish you the best of luck with that.
Chris, thank you. For those who would like to learn more about your work or get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
pauseyourlife.org. It does have a contact page. So if you ever wanted to send me a little note, I will be the one receiving it. So just through the website, pauseyourlife.org.
Chris, thank you so much for your time, your wisdom, your insights. It's an absolute pleasure to talk with you. And again, happy Valentine's Day. Normally, I don't make a point to mention on podcasts anything that can date the podcast. But the thing is, we won't say what year this Valentine's Day is. So if you're listening 5 years from today, happy Valentine's Day.
That's right.
Chris, thank you. Blessings. Blessings, Chris. Namaste.